What's up, Flick Connection? This is Darren, and today we're going to talk about the movie Mother with an exclamation point and the way you should best watch this crazy thing they call a movie. Now, for starters, I actually like this movie. I don't love it. I think it's got some serious flaws. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people loved it. It's very controversial. It's very polarizing. But we're going to talk about the best way to watch it, the best frame of mind to watch it in, things to know before you watch it for the first time, and things to know when you re-watch it a second or third time. So for this particular video, I'm going to have a very specific format where first, I give you some spoiler-free information that might help you better enjoy it on the first watch. Then I'm going to give you some light spoilers. I'll warn you before. I'm going to give you some light spoilers that still may enhance your first watch, but it's up to you whether or not you want to know that much. And then phase 3 is going to be heavy spoilers, where we really pick apart the film and talk about what it's really about. So let's get into the first section here with just the fact that this movie is not intended to be taken literally, and we get some of our first clues with that just in the opening shots of the film. We basically see things happening in reverse. We see the main character just sort of wake up in this empty house where she doesn't even seem to know where she is at first, so it's a little bit odd. And then I got my first clue when she stepped outside. There's no roads, there's no path. It's very odd just to see the front doors to a house open to a meadow with nothing leading up to the house. So that at that moment I was like, okay, we're somewhere other than reality. And then as they establish that shot again, you see the front door, you see people come in the front door, you never see a pathway or a road leading into the house, and that's what really clued me into, okay, we're operating within a metaphor here. And then it wasn't until later that I really understood what the metaphor was, which we're going to get into. Additionally, we get some other clues just in the fact that no names are mentioned, but that's not uncommon. There are plenty of movies where characters don't have any names. And then there's this odd crystal that just doesn't look like it's of this world, and we see it very early on. In fact, when I first saw the movie, I thought it was really odd to just show that right up front, but now that I've seen the whole thing, it makes sense. You want to sort of tell the audience, okay, we're not operating within your reality, and that shot of that little glowing crystal definitely gives you that impression right from the get-go. And then finally, I'll leave you with this on phase 1 here, and that's just sort of the odd, almost, I'll just say inhuman interactions. There's these very odd interactions as soon as Ed Harris comes into the frame. He reacts to the mother character in a very odd way, and then everything just builds on top of that. So I think if you understand that from the beginning, the rest of the movie, I'm not going to say it makes sense for you, but you'll really understand what type of movie you're watching, and I think it'll be a more enjoyable experience. So let's move on to phase 2 with some light spoilers. I really think you can know this stuff and enjoy the movie, but again, this is going to be for somebody that is maybe apprehensive about watching this movie based on things that they've heard. Listen to what I'm explaining here, and if it interests you, you will want to watch this movie. By the way, if you like this shirt, it's a Paul Thomas Anderson filmography shirt designed by me. You can currently get it on teespring.com/flickconnection. It's a great way to support the channel. The content is free. If you feel like you're getting value out of it, you want to support us, this is a good way to do it. If you're a Paul Thomas Anderson fan, it's one of the few Paul Thomas Anderson shirts that exist in the world, so pick it up for that reason if nothing else. Okay, and for phase 2, big spoiler here, this movie depicts God and Mother Earth, or Gaia. So Jennifer Lawrence's character of Mother, she represents Mother Earth, which goes by many names. Javier Bardem's character represents God. It's a very sort of on-the-nose interpretation. If you don't latch onto it at the right point, you may not get it, or you may get it at a really odd moment where a lot of other stuff before it didn't make sense. So that's why I think it might be good to know that going in, but I enjoyed the movie just figuring that out as we went, and it's not a big mystery. I mean, a lot of people have complained that it's a little bit too on the nose, but to me that's part of what was so interesting about this movie, is it really just took this really odd format. It kind of lets you know where it's going at some point, and I think a lot of people would have picked up on that at different points during the story. So if you did pick up on this while watching it, let me know in the comments below kind of at what moment you picked up on it. For me, it was really Javier Bardem's character and how it just sort of embodied this like warmth and this unconditional love for strangers. It was so odd in the beginning, and then as it carried on, I'm like, oh, this represents just God's love for humanity, and the mother character just doesn't understand. It doesn't make sense. These people are intruding on her turf and destroying things, and he has nothing but love and forgiveness for them. So that really just sort of clued me into what was happening here. And then as soon as we see the two brothers squabbling, I remember telling my wife, who hadn't quite jumped on the bandwagon with me, she thought I was maybe a little bit off my rocker. I was like, oh, he's gonna grab a rock. And sure enough, he grabs, I can't remember what it is, but he grabs an object and just clobbers his brother with it. And you're like, okay, we're on a direct, no bones about it interpretation of the Bible. Some other clues is really just Ed Harris, represents Adam. Even the scene in the bathroom where he's sort of throwing up and Javier Bardem is helping him. There's a big gash in his back. Very odd, out of context, but once you realize what's going on, that's the rib that was removed to create Eve, because then suddenly his wife shows up. She's in the picture. She's a little sinister, and I think Michelle Pfeiffer was a great casting choice for this, because she's got a very angled, sort of sinister face. So I think she was great for it. And then obviously, as the film progresses, she's the one that sort of leads her and Adam to destroy the crystal, the apple, and then they're then banished from God's study or library, and it's literally boarded up. And then as you understand that concept from the first couple of things, you kind of get to the midpoint of the film where the wheels come off. That's where we're going to jump into section 3 with major spoilers. So go ahead and stop watching if you've not seen this movie. Come back, watch the rest of this analysis. If you have watched it, roll with me, leave me some comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this movie, because this is where it gets really crazy. Now, for me, this is where the film started to kind of fall apart. Now, I liked it. I liked that Aronofsky had the balls to do something like this. I liked that he just went for it. I liked that the studio let him do it. Honestly, I can't believe this movie got made with the talent that it got made with, only because they're really expensive. I can't believe they put it out on a wide release in theaters. I'm kind of glad they did. So that said, I think he maybe went for it a little bit too hard, where it's very interesting to watch just the chaos unfold. But for me, Aronofsky's a little bit heavy-handed on the whole environmental thing. He is kind of a rabid environmentalist. Apologies to any rabid environmentalists watching this video. But, man's impact on the house doesn't really represent, it's not a good comparison for man's impact on the earth itself, because these people just completely are asshole to elbow in this house, completely consume it, completely destroy it, and that was what was so odd to me. But then we jump forward to the child in the movie. As soon as she's pregnant, I'm like, baby's gonna die. We know it's going to happen because of the path that we're following. The way that was done was odd. The aftermath of it, I actually really liked. It was really brutal. I thought that was a really incredible interpretation of communion and just the viciousness of religious zealots. I guess is the best way I can say that. But the way the baby was actually just sort of taken, I thought was interesting, because now the baby is ours. The people just take him, and God is just willing to give him up because He loves them, and they want a piece of the child. So I thought that was a really interesting take on God's relationship with man. The way the crowd sort of destroys the baby, I thought was just sort of, and not just because it was brutal, it was really sudden, and there was a lot more. Half the Bible is Jesus's relationship with man, and so that part, this long movie sort of interpreting the Bible, so to speak, it just sort of snaps over that, and then Jesus is dead, and man is just sort of taking everything out on Mother Earth, which leads us to, I guess, where Aronofsky sees us today, and then Mother just decides to just burn it all down. And then we get into this cyclical thing and it just continues to go, which he's done before, and he's really sort of explored different religions in his movies in the past. So I thought this was a really interesting take, not just on Christianity, but just sort of on man's relationship with God and the earth. There's a lot going on here. It's very odd. I by no means love this movie. I think as creative and interesting as it is, I think Aronofsky sort of was a little full of himself on it and sort of maybe went a little too hard with it. But I also like that he had the balls to do that. So I'm not really sure where I stand on this movie yet. I might need to watch it a couple more times, and I might actually do that. I did think it was pretty good. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this movie, whether you hated it, whether you loved it. But thanks for watching, and you will see me next time.